Just remind you to mute your mics if you're not. Okay, great. Actually, I can't share screen at the moment, so don't worry about it. Matt, I think you're the one who can share screen. We'll be starting in about in a few minutes. Everybody can, people on the webinar can introduce themselves, let us know where you're from, name, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah, I remember that bulldozer that tore Africville down in 1969. All the people just left. I wonder what happened to them. You know, the government does this thing. What happened to Africville? What happened to Africville? Now I met a woman.
I can hear it, yep.
Spent her life living there. Now Africville's gone. She's in a high-rise somewhere. Out of high-rise windows, I saw her face. She was so out of view there. She was out of place. What happened? What happened to Africville? What happened? What happened to Africville? My friend Joe is in Toronto. Family left him. His daughter went insane. Well, since they left Africville, they can't make it up here. It's so cold up here when you're on your own. What happened? What happened to Africville? What happened? What happened to Africville? What happened? What happened to Africville?
Okay, sorry, I guess we can get started. Can everybody hear me okay? Eve, Faith, yeah, you're all there? Awesome, perfect. Sorry, I'm just having to go back here, okay. Welcome everybody. My name is Raul. I'm the organizer with the Canadian Freelance Union. It's my pleasure to welcome everyone to this discussion about art and resistance and Indigenous struggle. It's obviously a very timely webinar and discussion, on the heels of the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, but then also with the unfortunate incidents that just took place with the Global Samud, where we have Indigenous women, Canadian Indigenous women, in addition to other participants, going to break the siege in Gaza against the genocidal state of Israel. Unfortunately, they were intercepted violently today, and hopefully everybody is okay. And so our prayers and thoughts are with our Indigenous sisters who are on the flotilla, but also all the other activists who are part of that. This webinar is hosted by the Canadian Freelance Union. The Canadian Freelance Union is a community chapter of Unifor. It's a different type of community chapter. Our membership is open to everybody who identifies as a freelancer. So we have members in the media sector, in the communication sector, technology, translation, interpreters, so all areas, and who have a connection with the territories here in so-called Canada. So the great thing is about members of the CFU have access to powerful support networks within the Unifor community, in things sort of as advocating for your rights and improving working conditions. So the way I see it, it's kind of four main things that the CFU does. One is we end the isolation for freelancers, connecting people, networking, socials, events like this, offering benefits to freelancers that are often only available to full-time employees, dental, medical, car insurance, auto, an employee assistance program, fighting for members' rights, which is a real big one, grievance support. So if your client doesn't pay you, if they try to kind of steal your intellectual property, we'll be there to support you, and then raising your political voice for freelancers. So, ensuring that it's important issues are heard. So that's kind of the main goal of the CFU. We do webinars on a monthly basis, and we're really excited to be hosting this one. I'll turn it over to Amina. Amina Sheikh is the vice president of the Canadian Freelance Union. She's also a union organizer working on national and international issues. So thank you very much, Amina, and I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. This panel is an honor for us, and it wasn't just planned for this day. It's been in our thoughts for a while. We are a small local, but we try our best, and we think that it's really important that we make the connections between the political climate right now, but also our membership. And so we try to really think about how we're doing things. And we're so grateful to have all three panelists today. And yeah, it's come to light today. And like Raul said, a lot is happening. And I know that members of our local, many of them are in the arts, many of them are media workers, doing alternative type of media. They are following what's happening with the Global Samud Flotilla, and they are also, very active and involved with what's happening in the current climate in this country, with the Indigenous land struggles, water struggles, and the violations of our Indigenous people and comrades across this country. So first, I want to introduce our first speaker, whose work many of us have seen around. Tannis Nielsen is a Danish Anishnawbe-Red River Métis woman. As a visual artist, Tannis practices include public art, which many of us have seen, drawing, painting, new media installation, sculpture, and performance. Since entering academia, her research interests have mainly focused on enacting a variety of decolonial methodologies through the study and praxis of Indigenous arts, history, theory, governance, and pedagogy. She teaches at OCAD University, where she also serves as chair for the Indigenous Education Council. So let's hear from Tannis today first. And just unmute if you're able to, or
yeah,
perfect.
Thank you. That was certainly a mouthful. So it's also kind of an old bio because I stepped down from being the chair from the Indigenous Education Council. I also want to just briefly add to that introduction, because in today's climate, the phenomena of pretendianism. You can't just say you're Métis anymore, right? So my mom is Murrow Monkman. She was born in Goldfield, Saskatchewan, because her father, my grandfather, Joseph Lee Monkman, was a hard rock miner. And Joseph Lee Monkman was my grandfather, born in a Métis settlement called Halcrow District in Saskatchewan. And right across the river, my grandmother, Catherine Boucher, was born in a Métis district called St. Louis, Saskatchewan. And they're still very much Métis communities. Like just the other day, St. Louis Métis local posted how they just did a bison harvest, and so they're still very much involved in language and culture, which is awesome. But yeah, so me, I was born in Red Deer, Alberta, quit school grade 7, never graduated high school. Met my daughter's father in Calgary. He was briefly signed with the Argonauts here. Um, had a baby, thought, well, I better do something with my life, right? So I applied to U of T as an adult student. And you know, I knew that I could always only do art, right? And then one of the first people I met was the late Rodney Bobby Wash. Um, just a fundamental inspiration in both my art and activism. So he also introduced me to the artist Maria Hupfield. But Bobby Wash at the time, when I met him, he had a sacred fire going at the Native Center because he was trying to find his friend Kimmy, who was fighting against the development of a hydro dam in Colombia. And Bobby Wash was a scholar, like he studied at Oxford University. But he didn't just write about it or talk about it, he organized a delegation of people to go to Colombia and find his friend Kimmy, who unfortunately had been kidnapped and killed. And Bobby Wash, he was on the front line at Grassy Narrows, and like he was never really like my official, like I never attended to classes with him. But he was definitely my teacher. Like we'd meet at Kilgore's in the annex there on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And have a beer, and I'd asked him, what's neoliberalism, right? What does that mean? And he'd like shrug he'd order a beer and then give me a lesson. Um, but I'm gonna spend a minute talking about him because he's very fundamental in my practice. So, yeah, he founded First Nations House at U of T. He was also the director of the Native Canadian Center. And he also founded an organization called Clan Busters, where on City TV, so that's like the KKK in Canada. Wolfgang Droeg, head of the Heritage Front, which is Canada's KKK Heritage Front. Rodney held up a photograph of the leader, Wolfgang Droeg, and said they like to hide behind sheets, but this is who he is, right? And then Rodney had to have bodyguards around him because he was getting death threats all the time. And then later you'll read somebody wrote on his Wikipedia page how there was a woman who wanted to escape the organization, the Heritage Front. And who did she go to for help? She went to Rodney's house. So it shows that even though you're fighting against one thing, you still always have your humanity in that fight, in that struggle, He had a lot of love, right? Just as, and the greatest warriors, the Gachida, are motivated by love, right? Of humanity and all our relations and sentient beings and things. And he was also, he also ran the Center for World Indigenous Studies, CWIS, .org, which houses the Fourth World Library, which the Fourth World is a term coined by most likely Eve's relative, the former chief, George Manuel. And when he introduced me to the community, like I was kind of insecure, right? Because I got these red hair and freckles. And he said, no, no. He's like, bring your paintings to the Friendship Center. Just bring your paintings. And so I brought these paintings of my mom and grandma to the Native Center, and other women would say, "Oh, your mom looks like my mom. Who's this woman?" Right? And then we made like community connections just by looking at the paintings. But during my undergrad, my time at U of T, I was never once presented with any aspect of indigeneity or an Indigenous art history, right? And there was always this like ideological clash I had with the teachers and my students, who, whenever I tried to talk about like the genocide in North America, they just totally didn't hear me, right? So my MFA thesis was about like cognitive imperialism, which is a term coined by Dr. Marie Batiste, who's a Mi'kmaq scholar and activist. And in my thesis, like I wrote my thesis without punctuation or capitalization. And I used a quote by Professor Ngugi Thiong'o to back up and support what I was doing. And he said, because to use the language of the colonizer was to pay homage to them. And I was like, I'll be damned if they're gonna take a point off because I don't know how to properly punctuate, right? And then my friend Rebecca Tababadong referred me also to Peter Cole, who wrote his entire dissertation as if it were a portage. So because of like how angry I was all the time, my specialty became decolonial methodologies through the study of Indigenous art history praxis. But I didn't really become aware of that until my advisor in the MFA program, who thankfully was a Como Pueblo poet and activist, Simon J. Ortiz. He was the one who realized that the decolonial methodology came through our artistic praxis, right? Since since contact, right? And so I'm continually critiquing the academy. I was recently like just made permanent, but I was contract for 16 years because it's not a very popular topic. When you go for an interview and they're like, "What's your specialty?" And I'm like, "Oh, critiquing you." And then I, I go and I say things like, only 11% of our students, Indigenous students who graduate high school, chose to go into university. And only 3% of those students actually graduate with degrees. And that's because of the continued system, the preferencing of Eurocentrism within its halls, right? And so I'm always arguing against this so-called normativity, like the bell curve, like normativity equal Eurocentrism. And the bell curve, it's the new term for it is grade distribution. And the bell curve was a form of scientific racism, which was utilized as an attempt to justify a European superiority according to brain mass, right? And still a lot of the exams in school and stuff are promoting this like so-called normativity. And I'm always against that. And I'm often also arguing my right to intellectual self-determination, as quoted by Undrip. And so like my right to self-determination, like how I teach, what I teach, how I grade. Like after October 7th, some faculty were like, "Oh, how do we talk about Palestine?" And I was like, "What do you mean? How?" Right? Like I curated a show in 2006 at Space Gallery with my friend Vicky Paul, and it was about the similarity of Indigenous existence and resistance under colonial occupation. And we invited Palestinian artists Emily Jasir and John Halaka with artists Erica Lord and James Luna. And so we were celebrating the similarity and the differences. And I believe, like, I don't like to universalize anything, but I believe that the colonial project uses the strategies universally, but where our differences in our resistance is it's embedded from the geography, right? Because our entire cosmology comes from a particular ecological place, which informs how we are in that place. And so we celebrated those differences there. But one thing I like about, so that was like a show of like international alliedship. similarity and difference. And when I think about the art that does that good work now, I think of Isaac Murdoch and I think of Christy Belcourt and how their art is, Water's Life is being held up like internationally. And I think, art is a great tool for connection and it's, somewhat of a universal language. But I still think like, we need actual bodies on the front line, right? So art can invite the people and educate the people to coming to the front line. But art is also has been commodified, right? So art is a form of capital, and I'm almost done. But so talking about organizations and like intellectual property, I had a big organization take some of my art without my permission. And I argued against my right to affiliation. And they were a resource extractive company. Eve, this is what I told you about in the email. And so I had to prove that my art was the opposite of what that resource extraction company was all about. And my lawyer got me $80,000, right? Uh, the lawyer took 20,000 and I gave half of it away, but that was a few years ago. But yeah, I had to prove that my artwork was about and to and from and with, made with the land, right? And so the complete opposite of what that company was, right? And so yeah, art invites people to read teachings from the land, because I believe all Indigenous art is either to, from, and or about the land. But still, any successful revolution has a number of bodies on the front line. And the only way that people stop and listen is when you stop that flow of capital. So art is a very powerful tool, but is still also a form of capital. Yeah. Miigwech.
Thank you. And I'm just remembering, I know this is right. I've seen your beautiful work at the Aga Khan Museum, and that it really resonates and it definitely shows the connections that you're making. And we really appreciate you sharing that with us. And we will go on to our next speaker, and we will have questions afterwards for our speakers. So our next speaker is Eve Saint, is a Wet'suwet'en land defender and mother of two, and a leading organizer in the movement urging RBC to divest from the coastal gas link and the fossil fuel industry. Many of us saw Eve very active during the pandemic. I know that I did, and I was definitely watching what was going on with these land struggles. Eve is the daughter of Chief Woos. I hope I said that right. I apologize if I didn't. One of Wet'suwet'en hereditary chiefs. Eve is the co-founder and lead coordinator of Eighth Fire Rising, a network of Indigenous land defenders, leaders opposing the recent onslaught of annihilating federal and provincial bills that are coming through. And I hope we can hear about some of that work today. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, everyone. Just a little bit of a heads up. I do not have childcare right now, so there may be some screaming. I will definitely try to work with that. Okay, so hi. Yes. Eve Saint. I'm a Wet'suwet'en land defender. I'm a financial divestment campaigner for Get 'em Done Checkpoint, and the co-founder and lead coordinator of Eighth Fire Rising. So maybe I'll start. I guess at the not the beginning. I'm not going to tell my life story, I promise. But just kind of backtracking. I just actually wanted to share a teaching. I used to be a Shkabewis, an elders helper here in Toronto. I am based in Toronto and was raised here. And I used to work at Anishnawbe Health Toronto, and I used to work with different elders, medicine people, healers, etc. And one of my teachers, Geraldine Standup, And she had this beautiful teaching where she said that musicians and artists are closest to creator because of their creativity, and creation is like creator spirit ancestors flowing through them. And so you know, they have that energy flowing through them. So I just kind of wanted to like open with that and share that. I just thought that was very beautiful, and that always kind of stuck with me. And for me, I was actually in theater school before I got arrested in 2020. I was in my fourth year at Center for Indigenous Theater. And, you know, before I always used to look at artists and see their beautiful work and, you know, like all these musicians. And I was like, oh my God, you know, look at their beautiful art and so strong, so powerful. I'm like, oh, you know, I wish I could be like that. And then I realized, wait a minute, I am an artist. Like, I'm an actor. You know, like I'm able to, you know, like storytell. And I don't, you know, I have some feelings on that term. Yes, we are storytellers, but it is also very powerful because that is also a form of vibration, right? Like when we sing, when we talk, like we put that out into the universe. And so also it comes from a place of emotion and the heart too, as well. And I feel like in some ways, colonization and mainstream Canada, like in some ways minimizes that. I just get that feeling, oh, storytelling, like it's just like we're, you know, like I don't know. I just like it just seems to me that it doesn't really give it its like it's underrated. It just doesn't really do it justice. But yes, we are like very vocal people, and like that was one of our gifts. And so that was what I wanted to do in resistance when I started this journey. um my journey got reignited. Like, first, my journey started in my 20s when I first found out about residential schools and colonization. I was just like mind blown. Like, I'm just like, I need to tell the world. But then, of course, you know, just struggling with, you know, being a youth and trying to survive, I kind of, you know, had to steer away from the journey. But Standing Rock, I came back and reignited that. And, you know, I was trying to find my place in the movement, in movements and resistance. And I I noticed I had a strong voice, and that's also my clan too as well. Like, I'm Moose Clan, and we're very vocal clan, and we um we warn the other animals of danger in the forest, of oncoming danger. So we have that call, and we call out to our relatives and warn them. And so I really feel very connected to that. I am a very vocal person, and I'm able to I feel like when I speak, like that is my art, that is like my power. I notice that when I do speak sometimes, like I can get into people's hearts. And actually some people have went to the front line because they're like, I heard you speak and I had to go. I just had to. And I was like, whoa, really? Like, oh, okay. And I remember one time I almost incited a riot. Oh my God. It's like, whoa, okay, whoa, holy, let's keep that for later. Not right now. It was just, I was just so mad. Justin Trudeau is at this building and talk in Nanaimo. Anywho, um, and so yeah, that's where, you know, like my speaking journey has taken me. And And then also, supporting the Wet'suwet'en, my father's people. In 2000, I supported them in 2000, ever since 2019. And I had to challenge myself. I really had to challenge myself. And, it's not easy to say, hey, I'm going to go to, a militarized, like battle zone, because that's what it feels like, right? Every time, because I usually go there every year, when it's blockade season, we call it. And yeah, you're out there in the elements. And, you know, I really feel this connection to the land. And we're so lucky. I've really been thinking about this. Um, you feel really lucky, to be Indigenous and to be alive and to actually still be connected to your land and still have these teachings and ceremonies that, like you can communicate with your ancestors. You can communicate to that unseen world, because that unseen world is real and it's there. And I feel for a lot of people who can't. And when you're out there, when I'm out there, it's just so beautiful. And I last year I went and I'm like, oh my God, like, because I haven't been there, because I have small children and my son's on the spectrum, and it's really hard for me to travel. And I haven't been there in such a long time. And I went there last August for a quick moment. And I was so sad that nobody was going to be at Get 'em Done checkpoint. But then when I got there, I'm like, oh, so much memories, so much connecting. Every like place on that territory that I've been, I've had a connection with, right? And I'm just like, oh, I don't care if anyone's here. The water, the land that's who I'm here to visit. And that's what I was fighting for, and that's what I am fighting for. And that's why I made that stand and to challenge myself, because it is not just myself, it is like generations upon generations that will be affected if I don't try. And we are at that point. We are at that point, especially with these bills passing through, and the ongoing, like, it is genocide. It's another form. The like the governments and industry and banks, I know I keep on repeating myself every time I do a talk, but they do have our lives in their hands, and we are so brainwashed and conditioned and dependent on capitalism, and also of the like oppression, because they keep us there. Right? We have to work. We have to survive. A lot of people are living from paycheck to paycheck, or, living on assistance, or, like the cost of living is, going higher and higher, gentrification. And, we are step by step, bill by bill, getting more into fascism. And, it's always been there, but now it's like right in our face, and they don't give a flying, right? So, especially with what's going on in other parts of the world, it's becoming more urgent. Because like if they can do that to, like to those people, and and it's even happening here. Like I see like a lot of the same tactics of Palestine and the indigenous people here. And yeah, we are still under, occupation and different forms of genocide. And when those bills passed through, I'll try to be quick, sorry. When those bills passed through, because I saw what happened in 2020 when I was arrested, I saw, like everyone stand up in solidarity with Wet'suwet'en. And then people are getting burnt out. people are getting burnt out like a month in. And, you know, in the cities, where there's different groups throwing down, like people were throwing down, you know, like one day, the next day, like on top of each other with no strategy. So when this, you know, in June, you know, everyone, Indian country, and everyone's freaking out and pissed. And, you know, that's, you could see a potential for shut down Canada 2.0. So I was like, and it was happening all across the board because I have people all across the board on my social medias. And I saw that they're up to something. And I reached out to a comrade. And it's weird because like intuitively I would reach out to people. Something would tell me, reach out to this person, reach out to that person. And of course, like, you know, it would just go naturally. They would support. And so I reached out to Sherry Pasternak, and a long time ally, and really yeah, dope, a researcher and like movement builder. I reached out to them and they're like, okay, let me look into it, I'll get back to you. Got back to me, like she's like, holy fuck, we're being flooded right now, and it's a tactic that they use so that nobody can fight back. And I'm just like, holy fuck. So we teamed up, and Sherry and a group of researchers have put together their data, and we put up the Eighth Fire Rising. So eighthfirerising.ca, we could probably put that in the chat. And then there's some active social media handles that will actually, we're trying to, you know, push all of those bills out there. And we're trying to open a lines of communications between Indigenous communities that do not want industry through their territories, because with these bills, they're taking away our power and our voice. And oh my God. You know, we Indigenous people have really, you know, bared a lot of, you know, from colonization, from, you know, land theft and reserve system, and like industry, and yeah, the Indian residential school, like all that impact, right? We're still, you know, carrying today. And um you know, this being pushed through, it's you know, going to bring more illness and sickness to the people in man camps and violence, and it's not good. So we really urge our allies to you know, stand up and stand with us. um you know, this fight, obviously it's you know, going to take time. Excuse me. But it's happening. And we're not just fighting for just our people, we're fighting for everyone else too as well, right? And yeah, sorry, maybe I'll just stop there. But it's a very urgent time. It's a very urgent time for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Eve. And like we really appreciate you being here and sharing. I know your mom, and it's hard to get childcare, and um just like highlighting too how difficult it is also to do land defense, and that connection, and why it's so important, and how it's interconnected with all the different struggles that all of you are fighting for, you know, and it really teaches us how to be communal and collective. It's really Indigenous people here who are teaching us. And even what Tannis said really resonated to me about language and like resistance too, because I was thinking about you know, art is being banned here. You know, we're in a moment where art is being banned for speaking up and calling it a genocide. And yeah, and So I appreciate both of you. And now I will introduce Faith Nolan, who is a musician and activist that many of us know very well, from the union movement, from different organizations. Faith does blended music about organizing, from prison justice to worker struggle. We played it in the beginning. It was called Africaville. How do you, oh, I realized I'm reading the question. And is a songwriter with a deep history of queer, women's, and anti-poverty activism. And Faith was born in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Her parents and extended family were coal miners in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia, of African, Mi'kmaq, and Irish heritage. Welcome, Faith.
Thank you so much, Amina. I have to say, Eve, say you blew me away, girl. You're good. It's not very often I have the honor of hearing such truth and such strength. And, I feel very old listening to you because I see you're the true history of us carrying on as a humanity. And I can hear the hope and I can hear the future in you. And I'm so grateful to have heard you speak. So, really, thank you so much. I wish I was kind of more up on what's happened today. I did go to Pride the other day, and I have to say I noticed in Peterborough, it was packed, and I had such hope because there's been so much hatred, there's been so much racism, particularly for South Asian people here in Peterborough, where I've been staying sometimes, and also, but to see people marching against hatred. Because we have so many, they're a small organization. They had that rally last week in Toronto to breed hate. And the kind of delusional Eurocentric notion that somehow they're indigenous to North America is totally delusional. They don't have the history. I mean, it's just like not even fact, but it's very scary because it's just like a cancer. It's a sickness that's very scary. And what the left is building and fighting back, and people are so aware. And of course, when you hear people like Eve and Tannis talking about art and what art can do. And I mean, I know from my own experience of organizing, like in the prisons doing music with women, really was, I'd always do this song, how can anyone ever tell you you're anything less than beautiful? You're less than whole. And how deeply you're connected to my soul. But just making statements like that to women in prison to empower them and myself to understand our connection as humanity. And I think as Eve talks about, the water defenders, the land defenders, the holes in the ozone layer over Ontario affecting the in Russia, affecting the ozone here, the water in Africa where people don't even have water to drink, the Indian farmers where the water is polluted and been stolen by multinational corporations. All these things, we are so connected in terms of our struggle and in terms of our art, because you will hear the chants of people in different indigenous languages making those connections to Mother Earth, to the spirit, to the world, to each other. You hear the same thing if you listen to South Asian music. You hear the same thing if you listen to East Asian music. You hear the same thing if you listen to African music. You always hear that human spirit in art. And that's what's so attractive and so irresistible. I often gone in a room where people actually don't like each other. And I'm actually one of those people that don't like too many people. So I have to say my own spirit isn't so good too much of the time. But when I connect musically, our voices become one. I love everybody. And I think everyone in that room starts to love everyone. And so when we can stay in those spaces, art has the ability to take us to those spaces. And I think that's what's so important. I want to say that I was kind of feeling weird about this panel because, my grandmother was Indigenous, but I didn't really know her. She died at 35. So did my grandfather. I was born in the Nova Scotia Home for Colored Children. I grew up Afro-Scotian, Black culture. So I don't know a lot about the culture. And I've never, because I don't live the culture, I don't know the language, I don't And like many Afro-Scotians, I was talking to my cousins, we're all related because we're only 28,000 people in the whole world. That's all we are. We're very small. But I was talking to my cousins, and most of them said, you know, they could identify Indigenous people in their families, but they would never ever take like a grant or a job or anything like that because the knowledge, you know. So I just want to make that very clear. I've always, and you know, from when I went to OCA back in the early 90s, is I've always been in solidarity from writing songs about anime aquash from Pictou County. I've tried to mean so because my freedom and everybody's freedom, as Eve said, is dependent on this saving of the planet, the saving of the earth, the saving of the water. We're all connected in that way. So, you know, it's just like when people say Black Lives Matter, when Black Lives Matter, we will have jobs, we will have clean water, we will have a peaceful planet, we will have housing and food. I just want to say unions have always been a place, speaking of Unifor, and this union is called, it's Canadian Freelance Union. I want to thank you very much for having me. But also I want to say, for me, unions have always been a place where we could gather resources. Those were places where Indigenous collectives emerged, Indigenous caucuses, Black caucuses, queer caucuses, South Asian caucuses, Gaza organizing. So unions have always been part of that artistic movement. Union songs have always tried to create that solidarity. And so I wanted to say that. I think I'm probably, I don't want to go over. So I'm going to just say that, you know, the struggle for freedom really is just a struggle for like food, water, shelter, to be treated as a decent human being. And Indigenous struggle is in Canada, in the United States, South America, is at the root. It's at the root of the fight against capitalism and colonial, settler colonialist ideas. And we have a duty as human beings to get on board with that and to take that, to get behind it, you know, not to get too far behind, but equal, you know, but let that leadership, let our minds decolonize and our spirits, you know, understand that. So that's all I want to say. And I really appreciate you guys doing this panel. And I appreciate all the work Canadian Freelance Union is doing on behalf of artists trying to get away from the capitalist infrastructure. I don't know. It said something about changing the infrastructure. I think we should dismantle the structure. That's all I would say on that, as opposed to change, but dismantle. And Amna, it's really great to see you. You're looking so wonderful. I didn't see you for a long time.
Thank you. And I love what you said. We're all for dismantling. That's why we have all three of you speakers to complement that. And we appreciate you coming here and like weaving all that together. And we have a few minutes left. I thought you were going to sing something, Faith.
Oh, I was when I, you know, I just because I'm very ADD. So
That's
since, you
okay.
know, we
That's
can do a
okay.
song together. That we could do a.
Sure, let's
Oh,
do
this is my
that.
friend's song. For the Moment, Afro-Scotian group. Well, I won't let this world turn my head around. I won't let the world turn my head around. Well, I won't let the world turn my head around because freedom has beckoned me to come. And we won't be free until the humble women speak. Okay, that's it. This is a little bit of a song. I don't want to take up too much time. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
That made my night, and it made it like a smooth presentation tonight. And like I said, this was overdue. We've been planning it for a while, and it's not just about one day, you know, and it's not just about, it's about us understanding as trade unionists how, and I like that everybody spoke about like the overarching like theme of capitalism. And you know, I just think that what we can do is just do one or two questions, and maybe we can open it up to everybody, and then we can like wrap up at like 8:10, everyone. And so we respect everybody's time. So one of the questions I had, you know, with everything that's happening, and I know some of you were following it with the Global Samud Flotilla, and locally we have seen Indigenous communities at the forefront of the Palestinian struggle here and around the world, right? And Faith really said it too. It's like Indigenous people are often the ones like teaching us how to resist capital. And we've seen the criminalization and the surveillance of defending like Wet'suwet'en land, or like being anti-industry, like Eve said, and repression is happening at every level. Like Tannis also said, like in the workplaces, whether it's all sorts of workers in academia, in art, media. So what advice would you give in this moment that is like, and we know what's happening under the Liberal government. I think we all know that too. What advice would you give to this moment, speaking to activists in the unions? What can we do to get behind these struggles, and how do we face what's happening? I know that's a big question, but anything is good. Does anybody want to go first? Eve?
Just giving space if anybody wanted to. I really encourage people to challenge themselves, to kind of push the envelope. We can't really stay in, this box, these invisible, lines that they have us, kept in. You really have to push the boundary, because, we're not going to make change. We really got to push those boundaries. And so I really encourage people, to take that extra step. It's uncomfortable, but it's in a time where we really need it. When I went out in 2020, I left my apartment. I left I left school. I was in my 4th year. I had to leave school. I had to leave, some work behind. I made a lot of sacrifices, and it's hard for an Indigenous person to get housing or to get a job. So if, maybe you're a settler ally, maybe you can, maybe it's easier for you to find another job, right? We do have to make some of those sacrifices, right? Indigenous people make lots of sacrifices to be out on the front line, and it's on our own dollar, right? So yeah, I just really like to encourage that.
I think I'd like to see unions. Sorry. You finish? I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Faith. Go ahead.
I would like to see unions create more community spaces, like, and involving the community. So say, for example, like, I don't know, 4308 or something in CUPE, they have a building. And so in that building, they have like an art resource there. So I think and Unifor, I know you have the Unifor Center, but opening up those centers to, say, Indigenous activists to go there, and creating spaces that can be accessible for people. That, I think that's really important, because unions have the money. They got the money. So use the money to create spaces and to send money, like on a monthly basis to Wet'suwet'en or to Grassy Narrows, things like that. I think are really, really important. And also to make sure that, like, I would go to a lot of Indigenous demos from the Native Canadian Center in Toronto, and always see the same people, 50 people, 50 people, 50. Where are the people? Not when it's like a Gaza thing. Then you see, thousands come up, thousands. But when it's Indigenous, where are the people? So I would encourage unions to start like stepping it up. Like, don't just talk about it, step it up in that way. Yeah, a couple ideas.
Yeah.
We
Just to
appreciate.
echo what Eve
Oh.
and Faith are saying. I think there need be a defenders fund. I don't know who'd manage it, but I think a lot of people need to increase the capacity to show up on the front line, like in terms of childcare, lawyers' fees and stuff like that are really important. Like after Isle No More, I couldn't get a job. Right? I had to go live with my mom. Like my kid and I had to separate, right? Like I don't know if it's because of Isle No More or anything, but you know, a lot of us were like looking for work and stuff after. But yeah, Defenders Fund and put your privilege where your mouth is, right? I'm in a very privileged position. I have like white passing privilege. I have a job, you know. I use my privilege as much as I can, and speaking truth to power, right? Like I'm in these institutions and I don't front, right? Like I speak off the cuff my truth all the time. And that's why when somebody was like, how do we talk about Palestine? I'm like, do you have to be strategic in talking about Palestine? Can't you just speak from your heart? What do you mean, how? Right? So just be truthful, be a good human, be a good ally, support the defenders.
Thank you. So I have a question here from someone in the group, and I think it's a good one because it can help us think about plugging also current work that you're working on. Feel free to share that. Wondering if any of the speakers could mention a piece of art that they made or a part of, I guess. But also, I think, is there something right now that we could share with our audience that we should look out for? Yeah.
I'm not sure what you mean. Could you be more specific? You mean
Yeah.
as it sounds like, are we? Yeah, well, I don't know what you mean, sir.
Well, it's a vague question. Someone's asking, can you mention a piece of art that they were part of? But I think what I was thinking, is there something recently that we can look out for that is coming, something you're working on? I thought this would be a great time because we're just wrapping up. I know that Eve mentioned Eighth Fire Rising. Maybe Eve could just speak a little bit about that too before we like wrap up.
Did you want me to go or Faith, did you wanna
No, you please talk about Eighth Fire.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So Eighth Fire is like for when all the bills came out. So it was all across the board, provincial from east to west and federal too as well. We for one, had to place all that data somewhere. So a website and social media handles, because we have to, push all that data out there because yeah, like the people, mainstream Canada needed to know about that. And also, it's a place that we wanted to, share impacted communities, share impacted communities that are resisting. And so also we're going to build on that, right? So we're going to have like another aspect to our website, and we also have like a mailing list. So we have a mailing list, and we also have newsletters, monthly newsletters, updates around the bills and the major projects, because they're announcing the ponies, the projects of national interest, and those are projects that are going to, go without a breeze, without you know, um, without any problems on their end. um, so yeah, I mean, we have to use all our tools, right? We're in an age now where it's social media, the internet, and that's how we get our stories and our voices out there. And because mainstream media, they're funded and they're controlled and they're biased. And so they won't share our voices or our stories. That's how Wet'suwet'en got the support, because we were able to tell our story. We had people, allies, who were able to edit in a quick amount of time and share those experiences and those injustices, and get our story out there. So that's really important in resistance and in movements, to be able to tell our story, our voice, and get all that information out there, because people don't know, right? Like, they don't know our history or the impacts. Yeah.
Thank you. And just looking at the time, Tannis, you put a document also. Did you want to share that?
Yeah, real quick. It's the work of my friend. He's a Nehiyawk curator and artist, Elwood Jimmy, who's been working from Music Eddies. Him and his friend Vanessa put together a text called Towards Braiding, and I recommend that everybody buy it. There's also a free download, but if you're privileged enough to add like 10, $20 to download the text, it proposes great ways of how seemingly disparate communities can come together. Like, it's undoing the colonization in our brain, and enacting decolonization through our bodies. Through the metaphor of a brick and a thread. Really beautiful, profound thoughts that we could act on. And also listen to John Trudell, How to Be a Good Human Being, on radical.org.
Thank you. Oh, and I see a little baby.
Sorry, could I give an update before we leave? I was trying to
Yes.
say that in the chat, but I kept I don't think it went through.
Yes,
When everyone's
please.
done.
Please.
Sorry.
No, please. And then we'll hear from Faith, and that's fine.
Okay. I just wanted to give the quick update on the Indigenous woman who is on the flotilla. So that is a land defender here in Toronto, and Musquasin Ignu is a harm reductionist and a badass organizer and like community care worker here in Toronto. And also does a lot of solidarity work with Palestine, has been very vocal and active in supporting, the pro-Palestine liberation movement happening. And so, I was able to do some organizing with Musquasin before she left. And she's out there, and she hasn't been intercepted yet. So she's still out there. She set sail yesterday, actually, and so she's still there. And it sounds like it's going to be ongoing until they're successful. And I think that she is along. She went with Dr. Suzanne Shush, but Dr. Suzanne Shush is back. But so she's out there with some trusted folks out there, and please, if you want to follow along her journey, you can follow along on IG at Toronto Indigenous Harm Reduction is a main one, and then you'll be able to click on her profile because they always tag Miss Squasson, or I can even put in the chat, but we might go right. But she there's a lot of connections between like the genocide here and happening over there. Obviously, it's really intense and ethnic cleansing going on. So it's like at different I don't know, wavelengths, but I don't want to say wavelengths, but with learning about what's happening in Palestine, I see a lot of, the with the Zionists and the colonizers is just a lot. It's just, if Donald Trump is backing, Zionists, then that's a problem right there, right? And so, yeah, the brainwashing and the victimizing that the Zionists are doing. So it just really opened my eyes and, learning about what's happening there. So she's still out there. So just, say some prayers for people of Gaza and, that the people are successful in bringing aid to the children and the people and, the babies. Sorry, I didn't mean to take up so
No,
much time.
that's perfect because we were going to talk about that, Eve. So we do really appreciate you. And we were wondering what's going on with the two Indigenous comrades who are on the flotillas. And so that's where you can get updates. That's really helpful because we are very concerned and we are watching. I know I've been glued to all the different alternative sources and watching it. So that is really helpful. And I do refer to Toronto Indigenous Harm Reduction Center. I do receive most of my information from there. So I really urge people to look to them because they share it often. Also, we have a rally on Saturday, October 4th. And I know that there's also going to be an Indigenous contingent as there always is at the rally. So we will be there, our local will be there, along with other labor unions. This rally, I think, is super important just because of what's happening with the flotilla and the urgency of the situation. And with that, I would, Faith, did you have any closing or anything that we could share? Or
this is one thing I do at rallies. We could all do this together. So we're gonna say, ain't no
Close us
power
out.
but the power of the people. And I want to dedicate this to the 6 million who died in the Congo and continue to die as well. And I'm so glad that Gaza is pulling a lot of this information globally and keeping our focus on the big old round world. Okay.
Yes.
So ain't no power but the power of the people. And ain't no power but the power of the people, and the power of the people don't stop. Say it again. Ain't no power but the power of the people, and the power of the people don't stop. One more time. Ain't no love but the love of the people, and the love of the people don't stop. All right, carry it on, and thank you everyone for all your labor, all you do.
Thank you, everybody, and have a great night. And thank you for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you at the rally. And we hope we can keep doing political education like this. That's so necessary for our members and for the union. And have a good evening.
Okay, bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye,
Thanks,
thanks
Amanda.
all.
Thanks, Faith. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Tannis. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thanks so much, Faith, for the music. That was wonderful.
Oh, no worries. You take good care, and I look forward to the email money because I don't have a university job yet, but I'm getting one
Yeah, absolutely.
soon.
I'll send you And interact transfer is okay, correct? That's what we
Cool.
said. I'll send it by.
I
I'll send it to
appreciate
your
that.
email. No,
Thanks.
thank you very much for everything,
Okay,
Faith.
brother,
You're
take care.
wonderful. Nice
You're
seeing you.
wonderful too. Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. Hey, Matt, how you doing? Sorry, I don't even know how to come back anymore. I feel like I'm hiding here.
No, it's all good. I thought that was absolutely wonderful.
Here, I'm just removing it. Okay, great. Yeah. I don't know how to show my face anymore. I hid myself. I usually hide anybody who's not speaking, so I'm like,